Join me today on Walk with History for a taste of Savannah, Georgia.
Hello. My name's Forrest Gump.
So here I am. This is the location of the bench from Forrest Gump. And any historian is going to know Forrest Gump because this movie is going to take so many pinnacle and important and influential moments of history and weave them into one man's story. Now the man is fictional, and we've talked about Nathan Bedford Forrest before. That is actually my first video ever for Walk with History, but that's where Forrest Gump gets his name. And remember, his mom says it's because sometimes people do things that just don't make no sense, and she wanted to kind of remind him of that. But this is where the bench was. We're at Chippewa Square here in Savannah, Georgia. And the bench was put here along the road so the bus could stop. This is not really a bench place. The bench was a movie prop. It's in the museum here, but they wanted the bus to be able to stop along the road. And then what is this square, Chippewa Square, and who is Oglethorpe? That's the statue that you see here. So a taste of Savannah, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this town, some of the history it has, the quick bites. There's some really cool things here. The first ever theater, that's the longest running theater, is here. This is the first colony of Georgia. So there's a lot of history here, and I'll tell you about it today on Walk with History. So here we are in Chippewa Square in Savannah. Chippewa Square is named after the Battle of Chippewa, the War of 1812. And because the square was completed in 1815, that battle was very fresh in the mind of Americans and people living in America. So they named this square Chippewa Square. But who is the statue here? This is General James Oglethorpe. General James Oglethorpe brought the first colony here to Georgia, and they settled here in Savannah. So that's why Savannah, Georgia is the oldest city here in Georgia. It's the first colony of Georgia, and Oglethorpe brought these people over and established the first town, and then he becomes the first governor of Savannah, Georgia. So this is his statue. It's why it looks very colonial. This is 1733. But this area here in Savannah, again, this square was dedicated in 1815. There's a lot of history right around here. Like I said, the Forrest Gump bench is right on the other side of this. If you make it to this square, and there are 22 squares in Savannah, this is the one from the movie. We're gonna hit some other ones as well. So this is behind the bench. So if you were sitting at the bench and looking behind you, this is behind it, but this is what they would be facing. They were sitting at the bench, and when the lady grabs the postcard and she's like, oh, that's just the letter, and says, oh, that's just a couple streets down that way. So that's what he's looking at when he says thank you, and he grabs the box and he goes running. This is what Forrest Gump is actually facing. So this is behind the bench here at Chippewa Square. One of the other things Savannah is known for is the Spanish moss. Is like what you see hanging off the trees here. Gives it a kind of like a romantic, historic feel. And because there's so many big trees here that have the Spanish moss, again, it's something that's unique and significant to the city of Savannah. As I walk through Chippewa Square, this square that Forrest Gump is sitting in front of in the movie, I'm just reminded to remind you of who we are. Jen of Walk with History, Navy veteran, historian, museum professional, podcast Talk with History, and the newsletter. So if you're interested in historical content, just neat little tidbits, stuff to ponder, stuff to think about, please like and subscribe to Walk with History. Also, #historic.com is how you can sign up for our newsletter.
Oh no. Yeah, I've tried this a million times. Oh no. To get this off my mind.
If you look directly, if you're sitting at the Forrest Gump bench and you look directly to the left, you're going to see this. This is the First Baptist Church of Savannah. And it's beautiful, but this is historically significant. This was completed in 1833, but the congregation dates back to 1800. The First Baptist Church is one of the few Southern churches to remain open throughout the Civil War. Again, I think the feather actually comes from Forrest Gump, from this general direction. But First Baptist Church is Savannah's oldest standing house of worship, and that's what's significant about this. And we're on Bull Street, and you can actually hear the bells going. So again, a lot of history right around Chippewa Square, these little Savannah bites of history.
Sometimes I feel real low. Oh no. Oh, memories, so sweet. Let's just find a place under the stars.
Now to the right of the Forrest Gump bench, if you're sitting at the bench and you look right, you're gonna see this awesome theater. This is the Savannah Theatre. And this theater claims to be the oldest theater in the same location. Opened in 1818. Now, two other theaters also claim that. There's one in Philadelphia on Walnut Street that claims to be the oldest theater. They were an open air theater that did kind of equestrian things, and they didn't close it up until after this theater was built. Technically not a playhouse theater like this. And then the other one is it's either Chicago or Charleston, and they claim to have the oldest theater, but their theater at one time burned down and they moved the location. So it's the same name, but not the same location. This is the oldest location, same spot, oldest theater in America, 1818, the Savannah Theatre. Being the oldest theater in America, you know, people who have performed here was probably John Wilkes Booth. He performed here. Oscar Wilde was here. W.C. Fields was here. So when you perform in this theater, when you sit in this theater, this is a theater of history. There are people here that have actually been influential in history.
Oh no. Yeah, I tried this a million times. Oh no. To get this off my mind. Yeah, yeah.
The Philbrook Eastman house, built in 1847, was once considered the finest home in Savannah. Greek Revival style on 17 West McDonough Street. So that's kind of McDonough and Bull is where the First Baptist Church was, and this is where the corner of McDonough Street, 17 McDonough Street. And again, these are all located on Chippewa Square. If you come to Chippewa Square, you can see all of these buildings right beside the square.
Under the stars. Oh, memories. Oh no.
So as you leave Chippewa Square and head more into the city away from the water, you're gonna hit Desoto Hotel. And what's significant about this hotel is Al Capone stayed here. Al Capone stayed here in the 1920s while he was in Prohibition, running alcohol, and there'll be more about that on our Prohibition Museum video. Make sure to watch it. But this is how Savannah was very unique to the running of alcohol, to bringing alcohol in, to getting it past authorities, and then dispersing it into America. Savannah has a very unique topography to be utilized for that, and so Al Capone was here to help kind of facilitate all of that happening, and he stayed here at the Desoto Hotel.
Yeah, I tried this a million times. Oh no. To get this off my mind. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I feel real low. Oh no.
So this is the house from the book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Also the movie directed by Clint Eastwood. It's located at 429 Bull Street in Savannah, Georgia. And the book has a very iconic cover of the girl. It's a statue of a girl in the cemetery holding up two bowls. And originally the statue was meant to be like a bird feeder, but it kind of looks like it's weighing good and bad. and that statue is very iconic. It has since been removed from the cemetery. It was located in a cemetery here in Savannah. It's been put in a museum. So what does it mean, midnight in the garden of good and evil? Remember, we're in the South, and the South is very influenced by African religion. And voodoo, hoodoo religion believes in the 30 minutes before midnight, the 30 minutes after midnight are the good and evil times of the night. So the 30 minutes before midnight is the good half hour, and the 30 minutes after midnight are the bad half hour. So that's what it means, midnight in the garden of good and evil. That's what that's pertaining to. One of the famous places to eat here in Savannah is the old Pink House over here at 23 Abercorn Street in Savannah, Georgia. And we're here on Reynolds Square, but you can see the pink facade, and it's a famous restaurant here in Savannah. So if you're ever interested in getting a good meal, I hear it's a great experience. I hear they roll out the red carpet for you. A lot of engagements and birthdays and on Reynolds Street here in Savannah.
Sometimes I feel real low. Oh no. I'm not gonna lie. Oh no. Yeah, I've tried this a million times. Oh no. To get this off my mind.
So I'm at 10 East Oglethorpe Avenue here in Savannah, Georgia. And this is the birthplace of Juliette Lowe. And if you don't recognize her name, you definitely recognize what she did. She's the founder of the Girl Scouts in America. This is where she was born. This is where the first troop meeting was held. So she's born here October 31st, 1860, Halloween Day. And this is her childhood home until her marriage in 1886. But she founded the Girl Scouts movement March 12th, 1912. And she was the first guide, and people call her Daisy nowadays. And Daisies is one of the levels of Girl Scouts. So it's like Brownie, Sunshine Girls, Daisy, Girl Scout. But she dies in Savannah in 1927. And then her birthplace is acquired by the Girl Scouts in 1953. It's a very neat historic home here. They had this cool gate in front. Born 1860 and died 1827, and it has the symbol. So anytime you see that eagle, always remember the eagles turn towards the leaf for peace and away from the arrows for war. So it always wants to have its face facing towards peace. But Girl Scouts, Juliette Gordon Lowe. Pretty cool. I'm at 20 East Broad Street in Savannah, Georgia, in front of the Pirate House. And what makes this house so interesting and so historically relevant is if you see right here, it says associated with Savannah's maritime history and Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, built in 1754. So Robert Louis Stevenson writes in his book, his main character talks about Captain Flint dying in the tavern in Savannah, Georgia. And that tavern is supposed to be this house here. And they say Robert Louis Stevenson visited this place and then was inspired to write that about the character here in Savannah, Georgia. So if you see behind me the second floor, that's where Captain Flint is supposedly have died, in the second floor of the Wayfarer's Tavern, which is now the Pirate House. The wicked pirate Captain Flint, according to his first mate, Long John Silver, Flint dies upstairs in an inn in Savannah shouting, "Darby McGraw, fetch aft the rum." Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island from Savannah, Georgia.
Sometimes I feel real low. Oh no.
We are in Johnson Square, and I am standing kind of in front of the monument to Nathanael Greene. Now, this is not just a monument to Nathanael Greene. This is also where he's buried. His remains are underneath that monument. Now, the Marquis de Lafayette actually came here and put the cornerstone here for Greene, because Greene was considered a great friend to General George Washington. He was instrumental during the Revolutionary War. Washington felt like he was one of his main generals, like an excellent soldier and a good friend. When Greene passed away close by at a plantation here in Savannah in 1786, he's buried at the Colonial Cemetery here, and then they start this monument. And this monument is, the cornerstone is laid by the Marquis de Lafayette in 1825. And then it's finished and his remains are moved here in 1901. So it took some time to get Nathanael Greene here, but his remains are here in Johnson Square here in Savannah, Georgia. So I hope you enjoyed this little taste of historic Savannah. We showed you some important landmarks, things you might remember about Savannah or might know about Savannah, things that I kind of recognized about Savannah, and maybe some cool things you didn't know. But Savannah is a great place. It was very walkable for me and the family. The weather's been great here. It's also October. I hear it gets pretty hot in the summer. But if you're ever in Savannah, check it out. There's 22 of these little green squares among the city. They're very easy to navigate. This town is laid out on a grid, so it's very easy to walk. And I hope you enjoyed this Walk with History. On to our next Walk with History.